Hey guys, and welcome back to the grand finale of this little video series where we still have a ton of side projects to finish up before we can finally get this thing on the road. And one of those side projects is this counter you see Lasse and I working on here. You can see a sketch I made. It's kind of meant to consist of 3 individual freestanding elements that can be taken apart to make it easier to transport them. They're 1 meter wide, or about 3.5 feet, and as to why we did this standing up on a stack of pallets, I have no idea. You can see we used again square tubing to make a frame, and then I had the machine shop make some stainless steel countertops to make it all nice and clean and also fit hygiene requirements. And this is meant to later stand in front of the trailer and be a work surface where we can cut and trim our beef to portion size directly under the eyes of our customer. As anybody who has ever completed a welding project out there will be able to tell you, it can be kind of difficult to get your angles perfectly straight. And I remember that on at least 2 of these counter elements, we had to separate pieces again and put them back together. You can see we used spanners to line up the pieces here. I had originally planned to use some sort of mesh to be the face of the counter, but we still had that 1 sheet of sheet metal from the roof sitting around. And not just because of cost saving, but also because I just enjoy being efficient, we said, why don't we just use that? So Lasse took an angle grinder and cut the sheet metal to fit the front of the counter. We then painted the frames black and fit those panels in the front. And we were pretty happy with the way that looked. In the meantime, we had learned that to make German health inspectors happy, we would need a sink with running hot water to be able to wash our hands when we're out there. So I purchased a sink, and Lasse took an angle grinder to our just perfectly painted wood box, which hurt, and cut a matching hole so that we could fit the sink in the very front, where we would later add some water jugs underneath and a pump. We also had our first proper downpour and figured out that our roof was actually working the way we intended it to. And then went on to fit some tools that we would need on the road, like the shovel and the axe, a basting brush, and a water bottle, all underneath the lid of the wood box, so it would all be exactly where we left it and wouldn't be rattling around when we're underway. I added a dampener to the top of the stack that we can close when we're underway, and we also started to work on a ice box where we would later store our drinks in. I just used this leftover water container that was still sitting on the property of the farmer there, cut some sheet metal to fit. This was still all leftover from the roof, so it was kind of a serendipity that we just had enough for the side projects. And I had the machine shop then make a frame to cover the top end of the box all the way around from stainless steel, so it would all be nice and clean. The next week, I believe it was, we had a couple of days of all hands on deck to finish this project up. Joachim was working on a trash can, Benedict and Lasse were back to make some shelving for behind the counter, and this is my business partner Keith, who I believe you haven't met yet, helping them out. This trash can you can find all over Texas. It's part of a national awareness campaign by the Texas Board of Transportation against roadside littering. It's going to say, "Don't mess with Texas." And as I researched for this video, I found out that phrase is actually trademarked, but I believe that those guys will not mind us using it for a Texas trash can. You can see the stand coming along here, the shelving. We had bought those gray plastic thermal boxes that can hold meat warm for a couple of hours. We threw in these pallets and covered them with anti-slip corrugated sheet metal to use as a flooring, and I installed a faucet on the sink and later put in some hoses and the water jugs. Just a ton of little projects that I can't possibly all explain here without boring everyone to death, but if you want to know any specifics, just shoot me a question or put it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer those. So as our project was slowly but surely coming to a close, it was now the middle of July, and it was a beautiful summer out there, so we decided to bring it all outside and take a good look at it in bright daylight. And I'm just going to throw in some pictures here from all angles so you can appreciate what it looked like. we were still working on finishing touches. One thing that was left to do was to lay the wiring for later putting in the lights. I had purchased, I think it was 20 of these 3-watt waterproof garden LED lights and laid some wire throughout the entire roof structure to wire those up. I had talked to Fabian's dad, who was an electrical engineer and a fellow motorcycle rider, a good friend of mine, and asked him to come out to wire those up. He's always my weapon of choice when it comes to electrical things, and he had graciously agreed to drive all the way out there the next day, and I was just prepping the lights. This is a little photo shoot here of the 3 of us partners in this project with our more or less completed rig and how it was all coming together here. And for the next day, we got up very early. We had planned a little cook so that all the guys helping out would have something to eat later in the day. Of course, it being Germany, it was pouring rain in the morning, but later cleared up. I was out there with my brother Lasse early in the morning, I believe it was 5 a.m., to get the fire going. And this is Stefan doing his thing, putting in the switchboard and the fuse box. Obviously, him being a 2-meter tall guy, I had put the fuse box in the tiniest little corner back in the wood storage box, which he could completely understand, obviously. But he just worked tediously the whole day, got all the lights wired up, and you will later see how it looked at night. With the project 99% completed at that stage, it was finally time to open up some beers and to say a big round of thanks to our hosts, the Allendorf family, who had let us stay and work on their farm for the 3 months it took to complete this project, and just shown us so much hospitality and friendship, and we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are now without the help of Joseph Sr. And his wife. So big thanks to them, also to all the friends who had sacrificed their free time and had gotten off the couch to spend time in the workshop with us and help us get this project so far. We had cooked up some brisket again, and for many of them it was the first time they tried barbecue, this Texas-style barbecue that I've been talking to them about for months, probably years, and they never quite knew what I was talking about. And it was just a beautiful day, all that coming together. Sadly, those happy days ended very quickly as we were preparing to leave the farm with all our stuff the next week. You can see we're loading up these pallets on the back of the trailer here, and I just wasn't mindful of the immense weight they had, considering how far back on the trailer they sat. And you guys who have experience towing trailers know probably what's coming, but I just didn't have much experience towing trailers. So when I joined the highway and sped up, the trailer started swaying out of control. I lost control of the vehicle and spun out and crashed into the side of the highway. And I don't want to go into too much detail over this, but we lost the van. The trailer happily wasn't harmed, and it was a big shock to all of us. So it took us a couple days to kind of gather ourselves. We had an event booked, and you can see we made it somehow miraculously to that event. This event also was stricken by a couple days of just heavy rain, and those were pretty tough days for our business. But with the 3 of us and all the support of my family and my friends, we got through it and managed to sell a couple portions, not too many, at that event. We had another event booked for a couple weeks later and had high hopes that that one was going to work out. So we just pulled together and pulled through those days and put a smile on and tried to see the good in everything. So with the accident a couple weeks behind us, it was now August. We bought a new van and geared up for a second event. That was going to be a very big event. It's Europe's largest food festival with almost 200,000 people attending. And we dressed up with our white shirts and black leather aprons with our logo stitched in, loaded up the smoker to the very top with brisket, and ended up selling almost 1,000 portions over that weekend, which still by today's standard is a pretty mind-boggling number. We haven't sold anywhere near that so far. And it just came to show the enormous potential that our concept had in the German market, bringing the Texas barbecue here. People absolutely loved it, came back the next day, brought their friends, and so on. And I was just blown away by people's response. And I couldn't have been any happier seeing what our little crazy idea had come to be. That being said, this little video series on our smoker build is coming to a close. I can't thank you guys enough for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Leave a thumbs up or subscribe. I would love to keep this up and make more videos about where this project is going. So thank you guys a lot. It's been an immense pleasure sharing this, and I hope to see you again.